Howdy, and welcome to Texas A&M. I am Dr. Deborah McKeown, and today I'm going to speak with you about time management in a graduate program. So let's get started. First, I want to orient you to the A&M resources that you have access to. Currently, A&M subscribes to Microsoft 365, which is an online ecosystem of Microsoft products. Within that, you have the standard Microsoft Word, Excel, etc. But you also have access to Microsoft Outlook, which is an email client, and a built-in calendar that works well with email, as well as Microsoft To Do, OneNote, SharePoint, and the apps that are situated within those ecosystems, including Planner, which is Microsoft's version of Trello, if you're familiar with that. So you will have access to these resources with your tamu.edu email address. So you can just search and locate those or use the links here, log in and play around with those resources. When we talk about planning, I'd like to think about planning our life and time in three different segments. First and most important is to plan for your long term, plan for your life, the things that it takes to keep you alive, healthy, happy into hopefully our golden years. And that's where we'll start today. But we'll also talk about planning our academic activities, which is probably why you're in this module. And I just want to mention that you're going to need to start planning for writing each day because that is what academics do. So first, in order to begin our journey for planning, we need to adopt a calendar app of some kind. Now, I mentioned that A&M uses Microsoft Outlook and there is a built-in calendar there. So if you stick with that, it's free. It's built into the ecosystem that you'll be using anyway, so it might be the easiest choice for you. But if you have a calendar app that you already use and love, then feel free to keep doing that. However, be aware that since A&M does use Outlook, that your app will need to sync with or integrate somehow with the Outlook calendar. Otherwise, you might miss out on important events. When considering your calendar app, you want it to be easy to use so that you're encouraged and not discouraged from using it. You want it to work on all of your devices, including your handheld devices such as your phone. It's most helpful if your app syncs across all of the devices where you'll be using it, and to also have notifications and alerts for when things are happening on your calendar. But important is that you should be able to also turn those notifications off when you need to focus. Some people also like to use a planner in conjunction with a calendar. If you would like to use a planner, then decide if you want to use a paper planner or a digital planner. There's no obligation to. Some people can just use a calendar. It just depends on how you like to think about things. But get your system in place and start thinking about and making those decisions for yourself. The next step in putting our plans into action and determining the structure of our time is to create a schedule. And I'm going to ask you to engage in this activity within this module. What you're going to do is create a 24-hour Monday through Friday spreadsheet. You can include Saturday and Sunday also if you like. And you're going to enter all of those things that it takes to keep you alive, that first section of planning. So enter your sleep, enter other essential activities like eating, self-care, cleaning, all of those things that we need to do just to live our life. And in this module, there is a spreadsheet that's provided for you where you can see, you can use that structure and you can also see some examples. And I'll show you that now. So Here is the example spreadsheet. This is called Life Schedule. And we have a blank schedule in this first tab. And you can see that this one starts at 4:30 a.m. and goes until 4 a.m. But you can change your start and end time however you wish. The second example starts at 0:30 and it ends at midnight proper. So depending on where you want your start, you can choose your blank. And then I want you to go in and fill in at least these things that you know that you need to spend time on. And here are some examples. These are color coded. This one lines out the color codes for you. You don't have to color code it, but oftentimes people will find that to be helpful. And you can see in the second example that the entire day is filled up with activities that are essential, and that's what I want you to do as well. Some things you may not know, for example, you may not know yet when your classes are held, and that's okay. But do fill in the things that you know and that are essential for keeping you alive, healthy, and happy. Okay, so take a look at those examples. And now I am going to ask you to just pause this video and complete the spreadsheet with as much detail as you can. So pause the video and do that now. Now that you have completed the spreadsheet with your long-term life activities, we're now going to move into planning our academic activities. And when we're thinking about academic activities, we go from the big picture, which is your entire degree program, whatever it's going to take for you to graduate with this degree, to the milestones along the way for that degree program. And then we think about planning by year, by semester, week, and then finally by day. Depending on where you are in your program, and if you're just beginning or if you're in the midst of it, you may not have enough detail yet to plan at some of these levels, and that's okay. But I want you to have the tools and be prepared to be able to do this for yourself. To know your degree program and the milestones that it takes to achieve the degree program, you need to study the graduate handbook, which is provided in this module, and you can also find it online. In the graduate handbook, it lays out the milestones and when typically people will accomplish those milestones. Also, the Graduate and Professional School at Texas A&M publishes a calendar for each semester that has key dates in it that are important in terms of deadlines that have to be met. So between those two resources, you should be able to piece together kind of a loose, at least 4-year plan of when you might accomplish those milestones. Also know that if you're a new student and you take the intro class, EDCI 601, that course will also walk you through making your program plan, where you also put this into action. Once you have your head wrapped around the big milestones in your program and the approximate timeline for you to get there, whenever you start taking courses, you will receive a syllabus for each course. And I recommend that you take all of the syllabi provided to you in your first week of classes. Set aside time to go through those syllabi and enter the due dates for each of the primary assignments. And then work backward to schedule chunks of time to work toward accomplishing those projects. This is especially important for long-term projects because the long-term projects obviously take more time, and oftentimes they're also worth much greater point values than other items. And so it's important that we schedule the time to accomplish those tasks. Another way to think about that is You're no longer in a program where your job is just to earn good grades. Your job is to actually learn and become expert. And so you need to have the time to be able to invest and develop that expertise in ways that you haven't had to do necessarily when taking classes for previous degrees. Within the syllabi, you'll also see assigned readings. And if you can determine the page counts for that, then you can estimate the time it will take to accomplish those readings. And then there may be other school-related responsibilities, such as if you have a graduate assistantship, or working on a research project or in a research lab, or if you have other obligations. 2 rules of thumb that can be helpful for planning your time. For every 1 semester hour of class, it takes about 3 hours of work outside of class. Our classes are generally 3 semester hours, so that will require 9 hours of work outside of class. So 3 hours spent in class per week, plus 9 hours spent outside of class per week, means that one class requires approximately 12 hours each week to be successful. Some classes will require a little more, some less. Many classes will not require that 9 hours outside of class every week, but then it may require more than those 9 hours whenever you're working on a larger project. So know that it can flex, but on average, this seems to work out. The second rule of thumb to help you plan your time is that for native English speakers or those who are very fluent in English, it takes about 5 minutes to read and understand 1 page of academic text. Those for whom English is a second or third or fourth language, it may take a little bit longer. And those people who might have some issues with reading, such as those who are diagnosed with dyslexia or similar disabilities, it can take longer as well. For those students, it can take approximately 15 minutes per page to understand. So test yourself in your first couple of weeks of school. See how long it takes you to read and understand academic text, and then you can use that to plan your time in the future. After we have our big picture plotted, we know our milestones, we have our syllabi, we have those assignments plugged in, we know approximately how much time we need to spend outside of class and reading, we can then create a weekly schedule so that we stay on track with everything that we need to manage. It can help with your weekly schedule to create routines that you follow. And in your weekly schedule, you have to include your essential tasks, including taking some time off, because we can't be all work and no play. It is very helpful, according to research and also according to other students, to hold a weekly meeting with yourself to plan out the upcoming week. I will create another module for you and provide resources on holding that weekly meeting. But for now, let's put a pin in it and know that that's a resource that you can seek help with if you wish. The next thing that you can do to set yourself up for success in terms of your planning for success is to make sure that you have a place to work. It's most helpful if that place to work is a place where you can control the environment, meaning it's quiet, or at least you can determine if it's quiet or if you want to have noise in the background. Having a door that closes is incredibly helpful because that can signal to the outside world, I'm busy, and it can block outside disturbances. Go ahead and determine what kind of signal you can give to others to tell them that you can't be disturbed right now. If you have a door that closes, Having a do not disturb sign can be very helpful for that purpose. Otherwise, have some other signal that you work on with those who are around you so that they know the times when they shouldn't disturb you. Make sure that you have good lighting in the space, that you have access to power, solid internet access, and it should be comfortable for you. I'd also like to recommend that you think about having this place be separate from a place where you sleep and separate from a place where you like to play and relax. So that entering the space means I'm here to work, and that's what we do in the space. We just work. We also, in our PhD programs, have to learn how to eliminate distractions around us. We live in a world where everything is constantly begging for our attention, and we have to learn how to, both literally and figuratively, turn those things off. So figure out now how to turn off those electric notifications. You really don't need your email to tell you that you have an email coming in. You will not forget to check your email, I promise. You can just turn it off. You don't need that. Learn how to turn off notifications on your phone, on all of your devices, so that you can turn them off whenever you need to. If you have other people who are living with you or will be in your space where you're trying to work and focus, then you need to provide them this schedule, or let them know about the visual cue or other cues that you'll be giving them when you need to focus and you cannot be disturbed. We are oftentimes people, especially in education, who like to pretend that we can multitask, but there's no such thing as multitasking. We really can only do one thing at a time. And so we have to sort of retrain our brain, especially if you're coming from the classroom, to block out those competing tasks and just focus on one task at a time. This will take some transition, especially if you are a teacher coming from the classroom where you're accustomed to juggling 27 different things every second. Just know that this is going to take some time to transition and change, but you'll get there with practice. And finally, you're going to have to learn how to eliminate the brain spin. This is where our brain is constantly spinning around. I can't forget to do this. I have to remember this. This person asked me to do this task, but I also have to do this and this and that. Instead of having all of these things spinning in our brain, we're going to learn to become disciplined in doing a brain dump and writing all of that down so that it's out of your brain. And I can teach you through the weekly meeting a strategy for plotting those things in and creating action items in them. This frees up your mental load so that you can concentrate on one thing at a time. Finally, I want you to mentally prepare. As you're entering a doc program, it really is going to be a change in lifestyle. Doctoral programs are not like other programs. It's not where students show up, take a class, do the work, submit it, and get a grade. There are 2 years of classes that you'll take, yes, but you also have to train to be an expert in research, an expert in your content area, an expert in teaching, an expert in the professoriate. It really is going to be a change in lifestyle, and it's going to be a kind of education that you've not experienced before. So be prepared for the change, be open to the change. And you also need to prepare those around you for this change. And be prepared to call on them for help and support when you need it. And call on your support system to give you space when you need it. But let them know that change is coming, including your parents or guardians, who may find communication with you to be a little altered because you don't have as much time. So things are going to change, but this is going to be short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. In the future, you're going to be planning to write on a regular basis. For now, as you think about your daily schedule, I'd like for you to think about planning to write for 15 minutes a day. It works best if you can plan that 15 minutes to be the same amount of time at the same time of day each day, preferably in the same physical place. So if you have 15 minutes in the morning at 7:30 a.m., then try to write for 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week at 7:30 a.m., sitting at your work desk. It doesn't have to be in the morning, though. It can be at any time of day, but it works best if you can have this writing time at the same time of day each day when possible. And we'll talk more about that in the future. You can find resources linked within this module, and you can also find other modules on topics related to what we have discussed today. That completes this module